On this James the Bike Guy, we're taking a look at the 2021 Fuji Nevada 1.7. This is an entry-level hardtail from Fuji that goes up against some of the big guys like the Trek Marlin or Specialized Rockhopper. And new for 2021, they totally redid the frame and got this a bit more competitive. So we're going to take a look at the features and designs of this bike. We'll talk about a couple of the things they changed, and then of course, we'll find out exactly what it weighs. So if you're interested in this or videos like it, be sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know your thoughts in the comments as we go over the bike. So checking out this 2021 Fuji Nevada 1.7, it's a pretty neat looking bike. I took a look at the 2020 version and you can see it linked down in the description, but that bike was pretty nice, although it had a little more conservative geometry. And by that I meant it wasn't quite as extended in the front end and as slack in the head tube as some of the other brands that are out there. And Fuji definitely corrected that for this year. So part of the reason that you would want new geometry on this bike is so that as you progress in skill, the bike's going to be able to carry with you. You know, a little more slack front end, meaning that front wheel is pushed out, and then the reach, so the distance basically from where the pedals are to where the handlebar is, as that elongates, it allows you to get your weight a little bit further back and make it more stable. Now, those numbers on their own, they don't necessarily make for a nicer riding bike, because with a slacker head tube, you have to go a little faster to get that same lively feel. But the packaging on this is pretty good. So this one has a 69-degree head tube angle, so 1 degree slacker than before. This in a size large that we're taking a look at, it's got a 445 millimeter reach, which is 15 millimeters longer than last year. It's going to have a 73-degree seat tube angle, which is identical to previous years, but strangely, they extended out the chainstay length, so from the crank to where the axle is for the wheel, that's now 450 millimeters, whereas in 2020, it was 435. So what that really means is they've made the front end a lot more playful, but they've still lengthened the wheelbase, which is going to keep it super stable for the rider that isn't looking to have an aggressive mountain bike experience, but rather wants something that's going to be a killer neighborhood bike or even to commute on. So it's nice to see that they drew a very good combination between the two. Now that same frame that we're talking about is going to be made out of aluminum with internal cable routing. So the front triangle on this bike is going to run their A2SL custom butted aluminum, and then it's made it up with an A1SL slightly more basic aluminum in the back end. So they've added the two different setups for aluminum to allow you to get a little bit more performance, less weight, better stiffness up front without drastically changing the price of the bike. Now for a fork, we've got this 1.1" straight steer tube, which goes down to this SR Suntour XCT30. This is a 30 millimeter stanchion fork, meaning that this piece here is 30 millimeters wide, which is nice and stiff for the price point of this bike. And then you're going to have an adjustable lockout. So you can open and close this. All the way down is going to be locked out where there's no compression, and opened up, it's going to be nice and supple to absorb some of the terrain. Speaking of the terrain, let's go down to this brake set. So here we've got the Tektro M275 hydraulic disc brakes. This is a 2-piston caliper operated with a lever up top which runs on mineral oil and gives a nice feel, and personally I believe this is one of the better affordable hydraulic disc brakes. Going down to slow the bike, you've got to have the rubber touch the ground, in which case we've got this WTB Ranger 29 by 2.25 mounted up on a WTB SX19 rim. This is a 32 hole rim. It's double wall, 19 millimeters wide to give good support for those tires. And that's another thing we should talk about on this bike. So this Nevada 1.7, this is the 29er version. It also comes in a 27.5. So if you're looking for a bike that has a little bit smaller wheels, a little bit quicker to maneuver, but you're not as concerned about speed or stability, you might go with that 27.5. Or in this case, the 29 is a really awesome all-rounder, going to be a bit faster, especially on some undulating terrain, and it's going to handle really well. For drivetrain, down here we've got a 3x8 drivetrain. Now this is fairly interesting because the drivetrain that's on this exact bike does not match up with what the specs say. So the specs say that you're going to have a Shimano Tourney front derailleur with a Sarah rear derailleur running an 1134 cassette. So here we do have that 1134 cassette, but we've got the SRAM X4 rear derailleur, which personally might even be an upgrade, if not identical in quality, to non-branded front derailleur. And I think part of the reason for that is right now, as you start looking at 2021 bikes, they're going to have slight variations in spec because these bikes are trying really hard to get out with all the bicycle availability shortages. So you may see some substitutions for the same or often even better quality drivetrain parts on the bikes to make sure that they're able to get built. Now, the crankset is going to be an aluminum crankset. This is a 3x setup. I'd love to see this turn to a 2x in the future. But this is a Pro Wheel 42, 34, 24 chainring combination. So that's the 3 different chainring sizes. And what's interesting about that is up front, your smallest chainring, which is going to be a 24, and out back, you've got a 34. That's going to give a crazy low gear. So you're going to have really no excuse for not being able to get up the hill. That's a good thing because this can run a pannier setup, a rack, even a kickstand on it. So if you're mounting up a rack using the mounts on the back end of this bike, you can carry some extra weight with you and still be able to get up those hills. Now on the street, because it's all the way down to an 11 tooth in the back and up front, you've got a big 42 tooth with these 29er wheels. It's still going to be plenty quick on the street. Now, the last piece to talk about before we check out its weight is going to be the cockpit. So what you have here is an alloy handlebar and stem combination. So this combo has a 31.8 bar clamp. You can see it's pretty flat with just a little bit of sweep going to the back. And you've got this really nice and stubby 31.8 Fuji stem. I love this because that's bringing you back. So they extended the reach of the frame by 15 millimeters, but they've shortened up the stem. So it's not like you're riding a larger bike. You've just got one with the wheel further out front, which is going to give you a better front center. And going to the back, you've got this Fuji saddle on an aluminum seat post. So now that we've taken a look at the features, talked a bit about how this bike has changed for 2021, it's definitely time to figure out exactly what it weighs. The actual weight of the Fuji Nevada 1.7 comes in and weighs 31.94 pounds. Well, thanks for joining me on this video of the 2021 Fuji Nevada 1.7. Personally, I feel like this is a real step forward for Fuji, a much nicer Nevada, and a pretty cool bike to get yourself into the mountain biking area. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to drop a like. That way I know you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.